Yep.
Sweet.
Right there.
How heavy is this shit? Hold on. Oh, that's not heavy.
Let me push it a little more, and you hold it.
Yeah.
All right, go for it.
Okay.
And right now.
Six and a half hours later.
Ooh.
Exciting, but overwhelming. Luckily, we don't have to do all of the wide body install. Juan and Daniel are, look at Daniel's face. And he's got to do three other cars, technically. Yeah. Even though the fourth one's already pretty much done.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy seeing it actually here. Because Adro just posted about it like what, last week or 2 weeks ago?
The first teaser started breaking about a week ago.
Yeah.
Because their Korea demo car, the one that they developed off of, literally as that was being finished, they were just confirming that the production parts work, and that then they were making this kit. You know what I mean? So literally, crazy. it's coattailing their kit by maybe a week or so now. You know what I mean? So I think the latest I saw, Adro Korea, their car is now wrapped in a new color.
Yeah.
Final fit and finish is done. Here we are. We're taking delivery of the kit now. So yeah, our clock starts now. T-minus 38 days to SEMA.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So
I mean, and even if it was just one, this would be pretty intense, but we got, again, like I said, we have two all-out wide body kits that are being built. So that's the part that intimidates me, because our original timeline was we were going to work on the Aston first, and it was expected that that kit would have been here last week or 2 weeks ago. So Aston kit arrived late. Adro kit actually arrived early. Kudos to Adro, but now we're at a juncture of, okay, do we flip-flop the schedule, start cutting the G82 first and assemble this car, and then wait for the Aston? Again, I'm not sure right now, because it's just kind of like the game plan, but that's kind of all part of it, right? Being able to have a plan A, plan B, C, D, E, F.
I mean, good thing it's your first time doing a SEMA car.
Yeah, first time. I'm super naive about about the process. This will be a breeze with no delays, with no hiccups, no stress whatsoever. This will be fun. I love all the people.
Losing track of the years.
I love all the people on the internet. They're like, why do all SEMA builders talk about SEMA crunch? Why don't they just build ahead of time or schedule that? I mean, They don't understand. They don't understand that new parts are coming off molds and off production like 30, 40 days before SEMA.
Yeah, we had like 4 or 5 people comment on the G82 video last year, and then you described it really well in one of those videos. So if you guys want to see the answer to that question, go check out those videos. Yeah, the guys from Adro, luckily they're local to us, just a few minutes away. So Ken and Davis are probably going to come. It's always funny, we mentioned it in the last Adro video for the Super Kit that we installed for them. We always get the kit and the parts that they designed first, so we see it in real life before they even get to see it.
For the most part, I mean, I noticed the rear bumper, like one of the videos, like, or not the video of the installation, but one of the photos David sent me, the rear fender is cut, and the bumper has these weird, like, sort of like rounded cuts, which I don't know if it's so that they can access these bolts from behind, and that's what I think it is. It's so that they can reach and like nut and bolt from the back side of this. Because again, the rear fender looks like it was cut like this, and you see a cut like this, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was in the video. That way his hand could get
to
the fender.
Yeah. And the wing ends before the ducktail flips up. The only thing that we have to modify is just that like reinforcement bracket. This piece. This isn't a direct mate to the CSL trunk, this. So I'll have Tuan make another one of these.
And boys, look at $35,000 right there.
It's a car, it's another car. Literally.
Got it. All right guys, so 2 hours later, we're finally able to unbox and unwrap all the pieces of the kit. I haven't counted how many pieces there are, but you guys can see it all laid out here. It's very detailed, nothing less than what you'd expect from Adro. So real quickly, I want to go over some of the very unique features I notice whenever we do any Adro installs. So first off being, I know a lot of people have been asking if you can get this wing that they posted and teased about for the wide body kit, if you can get it for a narrow body car or a stock body car. So we're gonna ask the guys at Adro and see if they'll say yes to that or not. But back to the wing itself, one of my favorite parts is this very nicely designed, CAD designed backing plate made out of carbon fiber itself too. So instead of just a normal piece of metal, like flat sheet piece of metal as a backing plate, Adro goes a step beyond and does another CAD designed, fully form-fitted trunk inside plate. So that helps a lot. Obviously, they have their very unique CFD designed end plates, unique touch. It's a 3D part, so it's very hard to make that. Got the indentation for the wing itself. The custom machined, very rigid and strong wing stands. Also notice that this is also aerodynamically designed, so it's not just a flat sheet of metal. So when we were unwrapping the kit, you know, we were noticing how on these dry carbon parts, this is very smooth. So, you know, you can see that the other parts that are already finished in gloss, they have that nice glossy finish on them. So we were wondering, and some of the guys here were wondering, and Daniel knew the answer, why is this not the same as all the other parts?
Yeah, so I think there's a common misconception that the texture and the final finish of the carbon determines whether it's a wet laid carbon or a dry carbon. So the myth is, if it looks dry like this, that this automatically qualifies as dry carbon, and if it's glossy or liquid looking, that this is wet laid carbon. And that's kind of a sort of a myth. Really, it comes down to the manufacturing process, and the finish is kind of something as a byproduct of that. So with wet laid carbon, basically you're getting a fabric sheet, right, which is carbon. It's not impregnated with resin. So that sheet, sometimes when it comes off the roll, you'll see it, it looks like cloth. It looks like a twill cloth, and it behaves just like fabric. And so when companies will have a mold, they have employees that are basically pressing that fabric into the mold the best they can, and then they're laying resin sort of into it and brushing the resin and squeezing the resin into basically a fabric. Now, because it's a fabric, there's going to be a couple things that's going to inevitably happen. Number one, you're going to get distortions, weird compressions and stretches in the weave. So when you ever see a carbon part, and you especially get to areas that have a very complex corner, you'll notice that there's a lot of weave distortion. That's kind of one telltale sign that it is wet laid carbon, because again, as a human hand is in there pushing it, it's going to distort that carbon. The other sort of like telltale sign, because there are companies out there that can lay carbon very, very nicely. But one of the other telltale signs is that when you actually look at the checkered pattern of carbon, whether it's a 1x1, 2x2, twill, whatever it is, is that when you look at each square block of the carbon, the weave, you'll notice that wet laid carbon kind of has this, almost like an oval, like inconsistent sort of shape. Even though it has that typical checker pattern from far away, when you get up and look very, very closely, those each individual checkers are gonna have an ovalish shape. And that's mainly because that fabric hasn't been fully pushed into and against the wall of that mold, right? And that's why you're getting that sort of look of oval. And when you look at Adro's carbon fiber, whether it be the glossy finished pieces or these satin pieces, you'll notice that the squares are very crispy. They have they have sharp corners, and that is an indicator that it's a dry carbon piece. It starts with a pre-impregnated piece of carbon, so that fabric or that sheet of carbon is already infused with resin, and when it's done being laid, it's tacky, it's kind of sticky off the roll. They're able to lay it into the mold, and because it's already tacky, there's rarely ever any distortion, right?
Yeah, you don't get that stretching, right?
Exactly.
Where if there wasn't that pre-resin in it, you have space between the weaves where it will move around more when it's being pulled or moved around.
Exactly. Imagine taking like your t-shirt, right? And pre-impregnating it in some sticky like substance or starch, right? It's not gonna move as much as a dry fabric, right? And so you get the crispy squares, and then once they stick it into an autoclave oven and bake it, right, the heat then melts and impregnates the resin into the carbon. And so you get a much stronger process. I mean, the dry carbon products generally are always going to be lighter. They're going to be a lot stronger. They're going to be thinner. And you're going to be able to get a lot of very, very complex pieces with very minimal weave distortion. And so, you know, as you look at the kit here on the floor, again, make no mistake, this is all 100% dry carbon. I mean, whether it is this sort of satin finish, which I can tell Adro Korea probably wet sanded this so that this is ready to be painted. So I think this is what you would consider a paint ready or prime ready surface, right? So all the major distortions, the waves have already been sanded and wet sanded out. So a body guy would be able to just like lay primer and probably just block this fender maybe once or twice, and this would be ready to shoot body paint on. And that
saves a lot of time.
Exactly.
But that time was already put in by the guys making the parts at Adro. So delivering a product like that just makes it that much easier. You really do get what you pay for. So when you see these parts in person, it's very easy to tell, you know, the difference between say a cheap carbon part or like a very high quality autoclaved piece of carbon. Like Daniel's saying, all the weaves are exact. The corners are very, very distinct. So another thing with these fender flares is obviously we've done a few wide body kits, and we get these kits, and you know, they come in these big packages, and they sometimes, most of the time, look like this. But what we always have to check for are pits in the finish, because sometimes even though they've done some prep work, there is still some pitting involved when we get them. So I was checking this earlier, and it's literally super smooth. It's like glass. So it's like ready to go. Ready for wrap, ready for primer, whatever it may be.
I think one of the other cool things is the front fender is a complete OE fender replacement, right? So there's not going to be any seam lines or random extensions. Like you pull off the OE fender, the Adro front fender completely replaces that. Now the rear fender, for obvious reasons, they can't do a complete panel replacement because it kind of blends into the C-pillar and stuff like that. But what is cool about their kit is they kind of do this hidden hardware solution. And so you have these studs that are sort of like built into the kit. You drill holes into your body. You put this up to your OE panel, and from the inside, once you remove your rear 3/4 panel, you're able to access these studs and nut and bolt them from the inside. And so from the outside, you get this just nice clean edge without any exposed hardware, which I think, again, like I said, it is a nice touch, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I just noticed that the stud's are already there. So some other companies do have that ability to do the hidden hardware. But then they leave it up to you to, you know, find hardware to use for that. Like they provided this extra surface to do the hidden hardware, but there's no studs in them yet. So another nice touch. But yeah, talking about the front fender, since it is a full replacement, everybody may think, oh, that's cool, you just replace it. But in order to make something that's a full replacement part, that means you have to have all the different mounting points and all the different tabs correctly placed. Because if these tabs were not made, and then not like even these small little grooves and indentations where the factory body is at, if they're not in the right place, then that affects the whole fitment of the entire fender. So another nice touch, how this is a full replacement fender. Let's see, what else? I think this kit also too is gonna be the first one with the Adro carbon grille. So this is gonna also work if you have an Adro front bumper. So a lot of people may be able to upgrade to the carbon front grille if you have their front bumper for the G82. Another thing we want to point out for you guys at home to see, are you wrapping the hood? Or you want to say yet or not?
We're gonna have to figure that out.
Okay.
I mean, this is kind of a pretty, like, it's a beautiful piece.
Yeah.
And my hesitation with always well-constructed pieces is either painting over or wrapping those pieces and hiding the beautiful craftsmanship underneath. And that's the tough part, because I do want to balance something that's overall aesthetically pleasing, because when you have carbon, regardless of good or bad quality carbon, but when you have dark carbon panels and colored body panels, too much breakage starts to look like sort of a panda car.
Yeah.
And so I want to make sure everything feels cohesive, but when you walk up to the part, you can be like, wow, that's carbon, I can appreciate that. And I'm already like brainstorming ways to potentially do that with the fenders, because I don't think I'm going to leave them exposed carbon, you know, because again, like I said, it will break the body lines on the side of the cars. But what I think I'm gonna do is in some of the rolled edges of the fender, especially when it kind of dips away into the air strakes, I think I'm gonna leave those areas exposed. So if somebody kind of comes up close and kind of peeks 3/4 into the wheel well, they're gonna see an exposed strip of carbon. That way the appreciation is there. But as we were talking about this a little bit earlier, we noticed on this massive full replacement hood that you'll see this sort of like center line here, right? Sometimes they'll refer to it as a V weave, or some people will call it a herringbone weave. But this is all, again, another like subtle nod to Adro's sort of production quality, right?
Because and attention to detail.
Exactly. So there's detail, and then there's a level of craftsmanship or artisanship that's going into these parts, because you know, you could make this hood with just one single piece of carbon, right?
Yeah, and just lay it,
yeah.
And then, you know.
But this takes a craftsman to sit there and align two sheets of carbon continuously all the way down the middle to kind of capture this V-weave or this herringbone. And I just actually noticed that their center grill as well. Look, because this center grill would sit right about here, right? Yeah. Look at this. This thing also has that center weave. So it's just this continuity and just a thought through process where it's not kind of this afterthought, but an intentionality. Yeah. I mean, you gotta appreciate that about this kit, so.
And I don't know if you guys can see this in camera, but literally every weave matches up to the other side of this half. So it's not like it's off a little bit. It's like what? It's like 2 millimeters of accuracy?
Yeah.
Millimeter. So it's very cool. And then obviously this is a big piece, so it's very hard to make a piece like this with all its curvature and have all the fitment right, vertically and left to right. So, and then I like how they have the vents pre-covered with that too. So yeah, if you guys want to see more of this build happen, we have already posted episode 1, so check that out. Yeah, please stay tuned. Please follow us on Instagram at StudioRSR, and we'll see you guys in the next one. I'm gonna get out of here because I'm very nervous standing in all this carbon. So we'll see you guys in the next one.